launch in. So the Land app is the tool we recommend because it's free, easy to use, but still pretty powerful. You don't have to download any software. You just run it through your browser. Once you've registered for free, you just go to this URL, go.thelandapp.com/maps, and there all your maps will be there presented to you. And I've got a huge list, as you can imagine, because I've been setting up maps for all sorts of people, but you can search. So if we want Wantage map, it will show the Wantage map and we can enter it like this. I should point out that this is not going to be sort of training you how to use the Land app. So in that sense, you can kind of relax. This is just to give you a taster for what the capabilities are, to hopefully inspire you that you could actually use this and find it helpful for what you want to do, depending on what your vision is. For most people, I think it can help. For most people, and if you want to learn more, then I'll be really happy to run a dedicated session to help you get trained up and confident in using this. So that's how we're proposing to do it. So this is the map. You can search for different places like Wantage, and it will then zoom into that area. I'm just going to reset everything to clear. So the first thing you want to do with mapping is have a choice of background maps. They call them base maps. So we've got a really good choice in the Land app. OpenStreetMap is something that's actually maintained by volunteers, enthusiastic amateurs like us, and it's pretty jolly good. It's not guaranteed to be accurate in the same way the Ordnance Survey is, but it's totally free. And I find it really helpful as the background for what I'm looking at in almost all cases. So that's OpenStreetMap, which you can see here. You can also choose Ordnance Survey, and this is free up to zoom level 9. This is zoom level 7, you can see here. And you can see it's showing quite a lot of detail. And it's carry on being free until you get up to above zoom level 9, sort of sub 200 meter resolution. And then it will start to show a different map, which is a whole lot more detailed, but then you start having to pay for that and it'll be use up your credits. If you don't have credits, the map will just go blank. So it's not going to put you into overdraft or anything like that. You've also got a light colored version and an OS leisure map, but you will have to be paying for looking at that. We've also got satellite views, and you as a free user will have Stadia maps. This is like Google Maps or Bing Maps. Pretty good resolution, and often it's really helpful to see what's really there on the ground. As you can see with Wantage, if you're trying to see where the trees are and the sort of roads and paths and so on, then this is a very helpful background. You can also have a completely blank background, which is really good to show up exactly which thing you've been doing. We got, I'm so sorry, we letting Catherine know Taras in. And I have got access to LiDAR, which is like radar, but uses laser light. And that shows just how the ground contours, the surface of the ground is. ignoring any vegetation. And that's really interesting for lots of things, including where the rivers are or where there might be any ponds and things like that. If you want to have access to those views, drop me an email and I can give you the relevant views. So that's background maps. We've also got a choice of about 80 standard data layers. So these are freely available from other places, but the great thing is here, these are all at your fingertips and you can overlay as many of these as you want to. So I'm not going to go through all 80. It's fairly self-explanatory. It's really good to explore. Some of the typical examples that are really useful is if you want to see where the rights of way are. So here we go, that's the rights of way. And orange ones are footpaths and yellow ones are bridleways. We might see some bridleways further out. And we've got some other categories. Lots of these, here's some orange, here's just some yellow bridleway. Lots of these features are interactive, so you can hover over and it shows a pointer. That means you can click on it, and then that will display lots of useful information about it. So we can see this type is a restricted byway. That's like a track, but you can't have normal vehicles driving over it. And it shows some of the technical reference information about it. And you can see the length of that stretch. That's automatically calculated.
Marcus, can I ask a question?
Let's do.
Some of the footpaths, or not particularly
Yeah.
footpaths, you've got an actual map here which covers whatever area. Can you
Yeah.
slide that across onto the sort of the next piece of area, or is it restricted? Yeah.
I can slide this across. Yeah. Basically, this is showing the footpaths across anywhere in England.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marcus, if I could also ask a question, please.
Yes.
What are the different colours of the byway?
So purple is byway. Light blue is byway open to all traffic. Sorry, the purple is restricted, and orange is footpath. Okay.
Thanks.
Nicely color coded. I'm going to hide everything, go back to clean. Some other ones that are quite handy are water. You can look at flood zone 2. This is the areas that flood every once in a blue moon. But that's quite handy for nature because these are the areas that are going to be near to the rivers. It shows up where the waterways are quite clearly. And also, these are going to be the wetter areas, and that's often really good for nature. Lots of the opportunities to do good nature recovery work are in the floodplains, and this is not strictly showing the floodplains, but it's something very close. It's a good quick indicator. So lots of fun to be had here, playing around with all these ones. You can see the eye symbol, that basically makes it visible or invisible. So effectively turning the visibility of it on and off, and it uses the eye symbols throughout. The other thing that is true of these things are interactive. You can not only find out about things, but if I right click on a feature, then for most of these standard data layer features, I can right click and it will give me the option to copy to a plan. Now a plan, this is the ones listed on the left hand side. A plan is a data layer that you create. And you can either bring it into this map from elsewhere, or I can bring some useful ones in. I'll describe that in a minute. Or you can actually draw your own stuff, or you can copy it from the standard data layers. So if you wanted to have a map of selected footpaths in Wantage, then I would do copy to a plan. I can either copy it to an existing plan, or I can copy it to a new plan, and it will create a new plan. Not only that, but it will actually give you a helpful template So you're not just with a sort of a blank sheet, but it will actually structure your data using helpful habitat classification codes. And the ones that are useful for us is baseline habitat assessment, which is what it says on the tin. If you're trying to see what's there existing, then this will give you a useful framework for doing that. Basically give you the appropriate codes for different kinds of habitats. So like W for woodland and G for grassland. And then you can have subtypes, like you can have a W1, which might be coniferous woodland, etc. This uses a standard classification system called UKHAV, which lots of people across the country use. The other template that's useful to use is land management plan. And this is a little bit more relevant to when you're planning what you're going to do. So if you're trying to make a nature recovery plan or a conversion plan, how to convert it from, let's say, sports fields into forest or something, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but then you can use this one. These two are very similar, so it doesn't matter too much in practice.
Marcus, can I ask again about land management?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we've got some conservation area anyway. Certain
Yes.
parts need managing annually, certain parts need managing every 1 or 2 years, or
Yes.
sometimes even. Can you actually fit that into that so we could actually potentially superimpose the different operations that we need to carry, so at least we could sort of show it to any operators that are working in the field, as it were?
Yes, and actually, the Land App staff will help you as a farmer in ways that even I don't understand on that. So the Land App is geared for lots of a wide range of users, but it's used extensively by farmers, and they've designed a lot of the features to be helpful for all the things that farmers are trying to do. You can see that there's a countryside stewardship template, which is geared for how to report, do the necessary reporting for your countryside stewardship. And there's an SSI 2024 template.
They're both running out because of funding, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but they put the templates in when they were still live, and yeah, so that's something to get into the nitty-gritty of. And for some of the farming related ones, I'd have to do a bit of digging or refer you to the Land App staff, who are very helpful. So you can see that you can copy features to a plan, which is great. You don't have to start from scratch. You can start with some of the existing standard data layer features, and then you can copy them across, and that can save you a lot of time. Other ones that are really interesting from that point of view, some of the habitat types. So if you're interested in where's the ancient woodland around Wantage, then we can see this is all the sites that are registered as ancient woodland, and it's showing, can you see it popped up a few green areas here? So again, this is interactive. So if you're interested in this ancient woodland, it's actually ancient and semi-natural, then you can, again, right-click it, copy it to a plan, and then you're starting working on that recognized plot. Is that making sense? So
Also, could I just ask as well, Marcus, when you talk about copying features,
yes.
So you don't need to sort of, as you often have to do with software, kind of click and drag your mouse around a feature.
No, not at all. No,
Right.
you basically click and select here.
Right.
You don't have area select on this
Right.
tool.
They are discrete features.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Thanks.
Yeah, basically each feature is a polygon. It's either a segmented line, join the dots to make a line, or else it's a polygon, you join the dots to make an area. So in terms of plans, which is the data layers that you create or I create for you. We're really fortunate to have a lot of valuable data which has been developed by Alison Smith at Oxford University. And she's worked out natural capital characteristics for given areas of land, different land plots. What's the relative merits of it for different uses, like sequestering carbon or cleaning the air or holding water? And she's devised a sort of semi-automatic scoring system. It's a really useful starting point. So we've basically got a lot of these data from Alison Smith, which has these merit score type things in. Also, my former colleague Jamie got together a whole lot of land ownership information, and that's really useful. So again, I click on the eye symbol to make it visible, and it will bring up the plan layer that shows the owners where we think we know them. And the ones in pink, we haven't found the ownership information, but the ones in green, we have found some ownership information. All of this is, we can't guarantee it's to be accurate. So all of this that I'm telling you, you will have to do your own due diligence, your own checking, your own ground truthing, but we're presenting this to you on the basis it gives you a really good start. So I've clicked on the feature in the plan layer, and it's showing me all of the attributes. So it's got an area attribute and a perimeter attribute. This is actually calculated automatically. So you can see this is 60.26 hectares, and it's 4.5 kilometers all the way around it, around the outside. And it looks like this is owned by Wasborough Commercial Limited. And you probably will find a plot number here. So that's, we could look it up on Land Registry. And the same goes for these other ones here. Let's say you had been talking to these people and were sort of coming to some agreement to do some management on this. Well, then you could right-click this feature and you could copy it to another plan. So let's say you're starting a community orchard on this area. You don't have to laboriously draw around the area you're interested in. You can basically copy this to your own plan. And again, we make a new plan, decide a template like a land management plan, and we might call it community orchard. You get the idea? I'm going to exit out of that so I'm not messing up Julian's nice map of wantage. But you see how it works in principle, yeah? The people who own the land are not always the same as the people who manage the land. So this layer here, which I'll make visible, shows the land that's known to be under management. And this will be under different schemes like countryside stewardship and so on. So yeah, this is under CSM, countryside stewardship management, etc. So that gives you some complementary information, not only who owns it, but who's actually managing the land at the time. We've got other information which is aimed at giving you an initial idea about which areas might be promising for doing natural flood management. So in light blue, it highlights beside the watercourses, and in darker blue are the areas which are near to watercourses, which could be promising for doing different types of natural flood management. Things like creating small scrapes to hold water, making small banks, all called bunds, to hold the water in if it floods, cutting the banks so that any sort of piled up banks don't hold the water out, but the river can flood more easily, all that kind of thing. planting it with rough grass or other kind of vegetation that holds the water, all those kind of areas. Again, this is using like semi-automatic criteria to identify what could be the likely spots, and that gives you a good start for your ground truthing and picking what you might do. All of this is designed for encouraging councils and community groups to start thinking at landscape scale so that they can strategically work on the areas that are going to be most useful for connecting things up into nature corridors and the like. This one is a bit obsolete. Oxfordshire had a nature recovery network system, but actually the nature recovery strategy is coming out and it's replacing it with something else. So I won't talk too much about that. And I won't talk about all of these except in very brief terms.
Excuse me, Marcus.
Yes.
When it comes to getting permission for any kind of recovery project,
Yeah.
I mean, I know people need permission for buildings,
Yeah.
you know, but is there such a thing for, you know, any kind of natural change?
There may be. It gets a bit complicated depending on what you're trying to do. I mean, for sure you need the landowner's permission, but if you're going to make it change its appearance or its character, then you might have planning issues. And if you're going to be changing how the hydrology, how the water runs off things, then you will definitely need. There are people who can help you with those things, but some things are very simple and not an issue. Letting the grass grow more tussocky in an area, you're very unlikely to need any kind of permission. So yeah, you've got to be sensible about it, and each situation on its own merits.
Sure.
But yeah.
Thanks. And when you said about having low bunds to encourage rivers to flood naturally, did I hear you right there?
I said two things close together. So
Right.
sometimes rivers have built up banks. So the bank is actually higher than the surrounding ground. Of course, in the old days, they're trying to stop the river flooding. Now, in the right places, we recognise it's actually better to allow the river to flood there. Like it's better to let it flood in Astle village, in the natural water meadow area, than it is to let it flood in Kidlington. Yeah, so you can do things like break down the banks and so on. Once the water has flown onto the land, you might want to encourage to keep it there, so you make the bunds to keep the water on the land. But there's all sorts of different things you can do to play around with that. That's a whole area in itself, which it needs a proper session on its own to talk about. And we get in someone who's an expert.
Actually, Marcus, they did a full-scale bund in Banbury, north of Banbury, and flooded a whole lot of agricultural ground.
Right.
So they've got the buildings in Market Way in that general area. Interestingly enough, they didn't take the levels properly. They flooded the Daventry Road, so they had to close the road and move it.
Yes.
But
yes.
there's a lot of care and attention needs to do when you do these changes.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. If you're messing around with water courses, then you will need to ask permission. There are lots of people who help you. So each of the rivers in our area has a catchment partnership, and you can talk to them. If you're in the farming community, then there's farming advisors who will advise you. You can get Environment Agency, and indeed there's some very sophisticated modelling goes on. I mean, that'd be a whole nother session. I've got some really impressive mapping by Atkins Realis, where they're doing really sophisticated modelling about how the water flows across the land. And then you can imagine doing some intervention like the bund north of Banbury, and then you can model what effect it will have, and that give you a much better idea.
Have to be careful though with Atkins and some of those professionals.
Yeah.
We've had East West Rail go through our farm, Atkins set all the levels and the so-called flow, and we've got certain areas flooded now that didn't flood before and shouldn't.
Right.
So you've got to be very careful when these so-called professionals, dare I say it, because I don't have a piece of paper to my name,
Yes. Right.
come and tell us what happens, and it ain't always right.
Yeah, no, point well taken. So, nothing's perfect. I think people are trying in good faith to make predictions. They won't always get it right, unfortunately. But, you should always use practical experience. You should always be asking the farmers because, often the farmers have been there for generations and they'll know better than anyone what's likely to be sensible and so on. So, yeah, very much point taken. I'll skim over some other ones. But just to say that, again, by some semi-automatic methods, we've identified where most of the existing hedges are. So this is relevant because these are the things you might want to be looking after, taking care of. And complementing that is, again, by semi-automatic methods, they picked up on plot boundaries that could have a hedge but don't. So that's a hedge opportunity. So if you have capacity to do hedge planting, this can give you a good start. And you can then combine it with other things like, which is the favorable areas like the nature corridors and so on. That might help you to strategic target where is the most favorable places to start your hedge planting to have best effect, connecting things up into corridors and so on. Other areas, so where there's existing woodland that it might be useful to let it expand outwards. That's called a woodland buffer. So again, by semi-automatic means, we've picked out where those might be. Or lots of other areas, if they're not precluded, not ruled out by other reasons, then it could be good for planting woodland. So you might be surprised that lots of areas could qualify in that way. It's down to if it's not grade 1 farmland, or if it's not already occupied by buildings or got other restrictions, then in principle it could be woodland. It's not saying we think you should plant them all here, it's just saying you could. Whereas the areas that are not green is probably not a good idea. But there could be other uses as well. So using some slightly different criteria, you could identify that they could be suitable for species-rich grassland. It could be suitable for silvopasture, which is combining trees and livestock, or could be useful for silvo-arable, which is combining trees and crops. Or indeed, if it's an area that's close to the habitation, close to the settlement, then that would be more favourable as a community orchard. So these are all your candidate places. They're kind of within reach of the community, but they're not ruled out for other reasons. So this might be a good starting point for identifying your community orchard opportunities.
That's really interesting, Marcus. So it's not an either or, black or white situation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you've got a lot to work with to start with, and you'll want to start doing your own drawing. So to start drawing your own stuff, let me, I'm just going to create a test one. I'm going to create a new plan. I'm going to use a template, like a land management plan template. And I can either import something, if I've got another file, a map file, a layer file from somewhere else, I can bring that in. Or I can copy an existing plan to make my new plan, or I can just have it blank and just draw the blank the plan on a blank sheet, and I'll do that this time. So it's asking me for a name because it's a new plan, so I'm just going to call it test. And here's our test plan. Now, see the difference between clicking on the eye, which makes the plan visible if there's anything in it. There isn't yet. And then clicking on the actual plan, which makes it highlighted orange. And doing that brings me up some more options. So now I can start to draw on this because I've selected it. So I could draw lines. For example, if I wanted to draw along the boundary or draw along some track, I can draw a line like this. So I click the dots to define the points, and I click finish, and there's my line. And it's already given me some attributes about that. It's automatically calculated the length and so on. I can give it a name, I can give it a description, I can give it all sorts of other useful attributes because the template has structured my data so that I can write in all the kind of useful sort of stuff. It hasn't given me a use for this line. It's just a line at the moment, but this might be a track or something. So I can give it, or it might be a watercourse. So using the standard categories, I can give it a useful category. Like river and lake, I could say this is an R for a river and lake. So that's now coloring it in the standard color for a river or lake. I can also draw an area. Again, I click to define the points and it joins the dots to make an area. And once I've finished, again, show me the attributes and I can assign its use. So let's say this is grassland. I can say which kind of grassland I think it is or should be. So it could be just bog standard grassland, or it might be, in particular, it might be acid grassland if it's an area which is highly acidic, or it could be calcareous grassland if it's on limestone, etc. This is using the standard classification system, UK have classification system that I told you about.
Is there anything on this system that does basically trees and bushes, like small copses and things like that?
Yes. Yeah. So I can look for something that's relevant, like woodland or forest, or I could even type in. So if you think it's coppice, then if there is a category for it, then it will show me the options that might match that. In this case, it's only set up for short rotation coppice, which is probably not that useful to you. So you might be looking for some of the woodland types. So here's a whole lot of different categories. It's not always going to give you exactly the one you want, because no classification system is going to give you all options. But this is quite a good way of getting a standard classification. So for example, if this is wet woodland, then you call it a W1D, and it's going to color it according to the standard pattern. It means that anything you choose to be W1D, it's always going to shade it in the same way. So if I see, these dark green with the diagonal hatching on it, then I know those are all W1Ds.
So going a little bit farther than that, we've got some blackthorn will coppice on a 5-year rotation to make sure it's the right height for.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so you would be short rotating coppice woodland, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. So you got a category for that.
Marcus, Are you
Yes.
hinting that short rotation coppicing is more of a commercial thing?
Yes.
And Peter, your 5-year coppicing, what's that for again for the blackthorn? What's the purpose?
Are you muted, Peter?
Apologies. The butterflies where we're looking for the eggs, and obviously, as you know, Berks Bucks, Oxfordshire, tend to be the only areas where some of the hair streaks are back into just South Northants. They lay their eggs at a particular height of the hedgerow on the blackthorn, and so we're proposing to coppice on a 5-year rotation, so that we'll have young coppice and up to 5 years, and then some that has just been coppiced, which will start this next winter, and then in 5 years' time it will be the right height.
Sounds great.
Okay, thanks.
But that isn't for commercial, this is conservation.
Yeah, so exciting possibilities there. So this is showing how you can start to make your own drawings and basically you can think aloud. One of the most useful things about the Land app is, besides its sort of user friendliness, is the fact that it's really, really easy to share with other people. So I'll just talk a bit about that. So if you want other people to see this map, then you click on the person and you can add different collaborators just by their email. So let's say I wanted to have Igor. Igor will tell me his email, and I could make him just able to read it, or I could make him a full editor. So if that was a valid email, that would actually send an invitation to Igor to register with the Land app, and then Igor could work on this map alongside me. In fact, literally, we could both be on the map at the same time, and it would sync both of our edits. And it's a really powerful way to get multiple people in your community working together on a project. One of the most powerful features about this.
And if you were actually getting a contractor, you could actually measure up and show the distances and measurements exactly,
Yes,
without actually having necessary to go out on site.
exactly. That's right. Yes, really powerful. So yeah, clicking on the features shows the attributes about them, but you've also got some, you don't even need that. You've got also a measure tool that will also do it. So if I want to measure a distance along a particular thing, this is just useful for rough and ready things. So if I want to say how far was it along that water course, then I'm showing I've got to 1,416 meters so far, etc. Yeah. If you want to send this to someone, let's say you've shown your plot area and you want to send it to the council, then you can export this and it will save it as a standard map shapefile. Julian was going to talk about how you can do reports. So if you want to make a spreadsheet, I'll come back to that one actually in a minute. The other thing that's really powerful is that you can make a print and it automatically generates a key, but which you can then customize. So for example, let's say we wanted to show our new test plot, our short rotation coppice willow, alongside the footpaths, let's say, and we might want to see where the some of the priority habitat inventory sites are in the Natural England's priority habitat inventory. So I've got all these features on the map, and then if I press the print button, I can make a frame which shows the area. So I can use one that I had before, or I can make a new one, and it will allow me to choose the area that I'm interested in. So I can shrink or expand it to include the area that I want. I can drag it around so it covers the right area. This is auto scaling it, so it will choose the scale just to match the area that I've chosen, but I can also make it a fixed scale. So this is close to, well, this is 1 to 1,679, but maybe I want to have a 1 to 20,000 map, or a 1 to 25,000 map. So then it will actually make the right size rectangle to be a standard scale. And then I know that my distance scale is going to hold true and so on. So I can see exactly what distances I'm working with. Then you can customize your print. So you might want to give it a header, giving it a title. So this might be my map of Wantage. And a legend is a really useful thing to have. So you choose where to put your legend, try to put it somewhere out of the way, like here, let's say. And you can see all of the features that I've made visible on the map. It's created a legend entry for those. Is that making sense? So this is really powerful. It gets even more powerful than that because I can make these bigger or smaller, depending what I want. And I can also actually edit the items. So for example, if I don't particularly want to, yeah, I mean, here we got 2 copses, and I don't really want to have multiple entries when they're both copses, one for Coppice Lees copse and one for Woodland Hill copse. So I can just make this invisible on the key on the legend, and it makes it disappear from the legend here. The features haven't disappeared, but the legend entry, the redundant legend entry has disappeared. And I can also edit the description, so I can just call this a copse like this, and that now appears on the legend on the bottom left.
Forgive my ignorance, Marcus, but what's a Lees copse?
I'll let the farmer answer that question if Peter cares to. Where does it say Lees copse? Where does it say Lees copse? Igor?
Oh, you've just deleted it by editing, but it did say, yeah, it did
Okay.
say Coppice Lees copse, as in Leaze.
Oh, well, that was the name of it, you see, because
Oh.
Woodhill copse.
Oh,
But yeah, so you could look it up on Wikipedia. So it's either lees, as in I mean, farmers actually have herbal leys, and I think it might derive from that. Peter would know. So a ley is an area that you grow vegetation on a more short-term basis, not permanent pasture, but it's a herbal ley for a number of years. So it might have been traditionally run as that, or it could be something else. And I'd defer to Peter's superior knowledge on that one.
Well, as far as ley and herbal ley is there, a ley could be just having clovers and grasses and other trefoils, perhaps, which would be just normal grazing, which is what we've planted over the years.
Yeah.
A herbal ley when you'll be having things like chicory and other things like that,
Yeah.
that are planted in there. Deep rooted, it will tend to bring up some of the more, dare I say, interesting flowers and interesting compounds out of the soil, which are quite good for the cattle. Lees is the name I've come across. I think it's sort of a localized name which would mean something in the locality, but not necessary to me.
Thanks, Peter. That's helpful.
I mean, I know
So, yeah.
I know one copse called Lee's Furlong.
Oh yes.
Basically, it's a copse which is of a length as opposed to anything else, and furlong, which we all know what a furlong is.
Yeah.
Indeed. And I've seen the word Lees in some place names in Oxfordshire.
Yeah.
It's not an
So
uncommon name in a rural sense.
I've been customizing this legend. If I decided to make a mess and I wanted to get back to what it was, I just click on Restore Default, and here we go. We got back to Coppice Lees Copse.
Marcus,
Yes.
with that legend currently overlapping part of the map's area, is
Yes.
it possible to move that legend below the map into the margin?
No. This is part of the compromise between making it simple and easy to use and making it customizable. Other map tools you can do it, but not this one. But it does give you a choice of 4 locations in the first place, so you should really choose which area you plot to leave enough. I mean, basically, I chose my rectangle, and I wasn't particularly interested in the bottom right corner, so that I knew I could place my legend there. So once you've got your print as you would like it, then you click the rather scary looking Buy Now button. But as we can see, because we've got a free background map and we're using freely provided overlay layers, plan layers and standard data layers, we're buying it for a grand total of £0. So if I click this, it's going to basically prepare a file that I can then download and then print off in the normal way. So it would take a minute to, I'll do it, and just waffle on a bit. It'll take about a minute to prepare it, and then I can download that as either a PDF or a JPEG or another file format. I think it's DXF.
Marcus, you're obviously familiar with Wantage and you're showing Wantage, which is fine. It's not a
Yeah,
problem. I understand some of it myself,
yeah,
although it's some way out from my general area.
yeah.
You mentioned the orchards that have been sort of part of the new SFI and things like that. Are those that are passed for that, which some will already have been, going to show automatically on these maps? Because, for instance, I know there's one near Tame, between Tame and Bicester. If I was to go on the app and see that, would that actually show me that area?
No, you'd have to get that from DEFRA, I think. You might get DEFRA to give you a map layer that then you can bring into your own map. I don't know about that. You'd have to ask about that. But the Land app is a semi-commercial offering. I mean, they basically make a business out of this. And they're not just trying to make money. They want to serve the farming and nature recovery community. And they've managed to import a lot of things, but they can't import everything. Not least because it would make it too complicated, and they're trying to strike the ideal balance between simplicity and power, and they're going for the simplicity really. So now we've got it prepared, we can download it as a PDF or a portable network graphics, another image file or a JPEG, and there's our PDF. We can download that and then we can print it in the normal way. So I'm going to close out of all of those. And I'm just going to briefly go through what Julian would have explained at more length. Let's get back to a clean background so that we and I will delete our test area. So I can either archive this, which does what it says, it makes it invisible, but I can recover it later on, or I can delete it completely. And I'm going to delete our test one completely. It's going to give me a warning, which is a good idea. This can't be undone. So Julian will give a much better account of this, but I was really excited about how Julian is using this for community nature recovery work. So as I said, he's in the business of trying to do a baseline, finding the starting point about what's there. And the first thing is, which sites is he looking at? And he's very usefully plotted out some of the key sites. So in this case, he's highlighted where the Letcombe Brook is running. He's also highlighted where he's in the survey locations. And he's chosen to show the identifications of these. So this is where he's been doing his observations. So this is really good to communicate to other people. This is exactly where he's been observing things. And he's recording dates and number of records and so on. He had some he's been doing bird observations, and so he's put different colored dots here to show different kinds of observations that he's been using. Again, if I click on that, we can see this is an observation of a greenfinch, and this one is observation of a red-legged partridge. He's obviously using some kind of color coding system of his own choosing to explain which kind of birds he's seeing. So you can start to see some patterns here. You might see a different collection of species in this cluster of observations compared to the mix of species in this cluster of observations. Sometimes when you're doing surveys, you actually want to survey the same area each time, or even the same line each time. It's called a transect. So you walk along the same route, and you can then compare, how many butterflies you saw in that transect in beginning of April compared to the end of May, for example. So again, I know that Julian's made extensive use of that. I may not be able to pick out straight away. Let me find another map that Julian's done.
Before you go on to the next one,
Yeah.
where you've got these groups of birds,
Yeah.
presumably there's some sort of nature area why they're there, because the birds do congregate in an area for a reason. Can you actually would he be able to superimpose that on a number of trees, bushes, plants?
Yes. So there will be
whatever?
some. You can use some of the standard data layers to show some of the likely locations. So, for example, are they congregating because it's ancient woodland? Let's have a look. I'm very much. Oh, okay. There's nothing on that one. Where was the bird locations? That one. Yeah. Let's see. I really need Julian to expound that, but let's see if we can just learn a bit just by, for instance. Yeah, so these are obviously not related to ancient woodland. It's obviously, this is a nice area of woodland, which would make it favorable for seeing birds. Is it to do with, is it in the priority habitat network? Yes. So around that. You need Julian to give you the rhyme and reason to all of this, but you can see how you can mix and match information from the standard data layers and the layers you're creating to give you really good context for what you might want to observe, what you might want to improve, and so on. The possibilities are endless and really promising.
Looks like water birds there.
Yeah, well, those aren't, it's blue, but it's not a water body. I don't think. I could,
All
well, I
right.
could check. So, or is it?
What's the key colours?
Oh, I see. It's
The
a
key
clearing.
different types of birds. I think it's just a clearing in this case, yeah.
I was misled by the blue.
Yeah, blue doesn't have to be water. People don't always use it for water. That was just a particular color coding they were using for the England Woodland Creation Officer Biodiversity Priority Habitat Network. So, yeah. Let me show you briefly what Julian's done for the Cesro area. Of course, he's done extensive observations of wildlife here. So here's his bat surveys. I don't know if I can. Trouble is, he's got a lot of things already turned on. I don't know how to turn these off particularly. Can you just see when I turn the transect routes off, some of these lines appear and disappear? Here we go. Right, so Julian has been using these lines here, just next to the proposed reservoir area, as transect areas. He works the same route at defined periods, and then measures the rat that observes the bats there. So that's a bat transect here, and we can see they're also appearing along these lines here. So he's walking standard routes to observe his bats, and then he can see if there's any changes on those routes. So if you've done any systematic wildlife observation, the kind that our friend Lisa is telling people about online as we speak, that then you will know about doing standard transect routes and showing areas and so on. The great thing is that whatever you're doing, you can use this map tool to show visually what you're up to and share that information with other people. And then you can print it out. And I mean, I firmly believe that the key to nature recovery is people. We need to get many more people aware and engaged. The way to do that is to show what we're doing, and people will relate to it visually. So using these free mapping tools, we can draw other people to be part of our team. We can show the community what we're doing and what's precious, and get many more people engaged in this. That's the true power of this. I said I would show you just one more thing. So I'm going to show you a tool which is not the Land app, and this is a really powerful tool that you will have to download and be really expert at using. A totally different topic, but I just so happen to have this layer here, which is from I think this is Environment Agency. They basically automatically measured from all across England where there are trees. They basically analysed photographs or satellite views, and this shows not the areas of woodland, but the individual trees and then the small clusters of trees. So
That was
where
in
are
the
we?
news recently, Marcus. I heard it on the radio. And
Yes.
apparently a third of the UK's tree cover, like 30%, is these
trees
isolated.
outside woodland. Yeah. So let's say you're trying to do. I won't try and find Wantage back again, but this happens to be Enstone. Let's say I'm trying to have a plot showing all of the existing trees within the village. Well, this map there will show that. And what I can do is I can cut around this to the area that's of interest to you. And I think I can then pull it into your land app map. So basically, I'll pull this into here, or let's say Wantage. And you can see where the individual trees are. That saves you laboriously having to draw them all yourself. And back to the Oxfordshire Trees Service, the trees that were planted a few years ago, they would show up on this trees outside woodland layer. So that would be a way of showing the location of some of those trees, albeit not the most recent ones. Does that make sense?
Sorry, Marcus, I got a bit lost there.
So at the beginning of our meeting, we're talking about the Oxfordshire Tree Service, and they have the treefinder.org map. We can't export from that and import into the land app, but what we can do is we can use this one, this trees outside woodland layer, and this in principle ought to show where established trees, a lot of the less recent trees in the OCC tree mapper map are. This would show them, and this one I can import into the land app for you. So basically, I could pull this one into your village or town's map on request. As indeed,
Oh, I see.
I can.
So
put
you're
in
saying it's
everything.
to do with data sets and more recent data sets and older data sets.
Exactly, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
So, thank you for your patience and attention. That's been quite a long canter, and we'll have to get Julian back in at another time, I think, to describe more clearly what he's doing. I've done my best based on what I've seen so far, but I'm not really privy to these latest things. And it's going to be really well worth hearing from Julian himself. Did you have any sort of more overarching questions that people wanted to go through? Or should we get into sharing other news?
Can I just I wasn't absolutely clear, Marcus,
Yeah.
how much of this is just for Oxfordshire and how much is applicable elsewhere?
Yes. Yeah, I know this is an ongoing thing. So I'll share my screen again and try and point by waving my mouse around. So anything here is available to anyone in England.
Mm-hmm.
Any of these 80 data layers are available to anyone in England.
Mm-hmm.
These special ones here, unfortunately, I can only create for Oxfordshire so far.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine, thank you.
If you wanted to have a go with Winslow or anywhere else,
Mm-hmm.
let's set up a map for Winslow, and I will do my best to pull in whatever I can that's useful into it. I'm very happy to set one up, and you can see what's there and see if it's useful to you.
Well,
And
that's
if it's
very
not,
kind of
then
you.
yeah, no, it's I'm happy to do that.
Oh, thank you.
So,
Yeah.
it might not be what you need, or at least not yet. I
No.
won't be offended then if you say, no, let's leave it for now. But hopefully it'll be, fairly useful. If only,
Yeah.
it shows your standard habitat inventory stuff and your rights of way and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. I mean, is that something you could just think, oh, this is what they might need, or do you need me to
Well, we can
tell
do
you what.
both. So I
Yeah,
can guess what you might need, and
yeah.
you can also guess what you might want. And let's
Okay.
merge our two lists, and we'll see if we can make your wishes come true
No, thank you very
within
much.
the
Okay.
best of my abilities.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Bear in
Thank
mind
you.
this, yeah, just one of me.
Yeah,
But yeah,
no hurry.
right. Yeah, so drop me an email and let's fix up a session. Be really happy to do that, Mary.
Oh, okay, lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, Mary, we have a small amount of land in Buckinghamshire, Poundon
Oh,
Road,
yes.
the Oxfordshire border.
Okay.
Yeah,
It has an Oxfordshire postcode, but so far we've only been on that site for about 18 months. There's nothing very interesting at all there yet, so we're working on it. All we've got is we've got 11 hives of bees and
right,
a lot of other bits and pieces as well, but
right.
early days.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I've
And
never been sure whether Launton was in Oxfordshire, but it obviously is, right.
The border's
same
moved
goes for
a
you.
bit.
Yeah, so same for you, Peter. If there's anything I can do for you, sitting down and seeing what you might want to do and helping to set things up, I'm really happy to do that.
It would be quite interesting actually, because we've got something like 5 hectares of conservation area,
Okay.
which
Yeah, so let's sit down for a session. So my email is marcus@cagoxfordshire.org.uk. I'm going to put it in the chat. Drop me an email and give me some idea of what you think you might like, and I will do my best to oblige.
okay, see if we can take part in it a bit
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be delighted to try and help you. Bear in mind, I'm not a farmer, but so I might I might point you to the or the farming community. But you know, where I can at least get you started.
Excuse me, Marcus. So am I right in thinking that this land map, there's a
Yeah.
sort of core database available nationally, but then the extra local detail is something that has to be sought by, talking to local enthusiasts like Julian who are mapping whatever, in this case, birds, and that you're accreting these extra local layers of very specific knowledge.
Not quite. So all of these 80 on the right, these are available nationally. And then let me show you, here's over Norton, and basically ignore the last 4, but all of these ones here, these are something that I would supply a standard for you. In fact, I could probably show you I think I set up a Kidlington one, haven't I? What a pain. Okay, I haven't set up Kidlington. I have set up Kiddington, which is not the same place at all, but it will show you oh no, it's no good either. I just need to find a sort of bog standard map that hasn't been played around with much yet. Let's have a look. Which one won't have been messed around with? Norton. Here we go. Yeah, so all of these are basically Alison Smith's and Jamie Hartzell's work. So these are available for any parish in Oxfordshire or anyone in Oxfordshire, but currently I can't provide them outside Oxfordshire. When we look at the Wantage map, we can see that in addition to those ones, Julian has started to write his own stuff in, okay? So all these bird locations, well, he's generated the data and he's plotting his own data in that. So this is Julian's work. And that would be up to Julian if he wanted to share that with you, whatever. Does that make sense? So we've got three
Yeah.
sources, standard data layers available nationally, Oxfordshire plan layers pre-populated by me, which is basically the top few of these available for anyone in Oxfordshire. And then the rest is users starting to do their own stuff. So this is what you might be creating, Igor.
I've got it. Yeah. Thanks. That clarifies things. Cheers.
Was that making sense to you, Catherine? I'm sorry it took me a while to let you in at the beginning. I think Catherine might be say no evil.
I think she might have had to leave, actually. I think I saw a message from her.
She said, "Thank you so much. Sorry I was late." And currently
Oh.
she's still in the room. She's down as a participant. No, never mind.
Oh.
Just welcome, Catherine. Anyway,
Yeah.
any other sort of overarching questions?
Yeah, Marcus.
Yes.
I'm curious. Geology and soil type
Yes.
really have a massive influence on
Yes.
suitability.
Yeah.
I mean, could you comment on what's behind the information on the land map with that, in that regard? I know it's a bit of a woolly question, but you were talking earlier about you know, the various combinations of agriculture that are possible, you know.
Yes.
Is that based on you know, decades of geological analysis? Or is it really based on talking to farmers about soil types? I'm just curious if you know what the underlying sort of scientific basis of this is. I mean, of course, there's also the various grades of land, you know, which are agriculturally suitable.
So most of the categorization that Alison Smith did, the natural capital mapping, that was based on agricultural land grade, and that's not my province. That's the province of DEFRA and so on. And I think that's largely built up through experience. You know, Peter has been farming for decades. He knows how good his land is, and it's now common knowledge. You know, you will know whether you're farming grade 1 land or grade 3 land. You know, field by field. That's kind of accepted.
that's a very simplified way of putting it. There actually are so many different soil types. DEFRA will have a soil type, and you've got, for instance, there's a Denchworth type, which is an Oxfordshire type
Yeah.
clay, and other clays, the Aylesbury Vale, I've got a different type of clay, and again, it varies between the actual water bodies that you've got within that area as well.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Look.
Yeah.
So there is a large number. It is available somewhere. I can remember when it was actually put together, but I've been farming a long time, so I can't remember exactly when.
Yeah.
Thanks,
As
Peter.
you say, Peter, it's a specialized area. For us interested laymen, I would point you to the British Geological Society. So this is not soil types that Peter's talking about, but it is talking about rock types, the underlying rocks. And that's quite informative. So you can see, for example, that around Kidlington, you're on Oxford Clay Formation. So that's going to be sort of neutral. It's going to have a particular, it's going to have a propensity to create certain types of soils. Whereas if you move to my neck of the woods, Chipping Norton, well, on the top, we're on oolite, which is a very porous limestone. And then where the rivers have carved valleys, we're on lias. So you can learn quite a lot about the nature of the ground that way. But again, that's a whole topic in its own right. Fascinating. I'll put it in the chat. Enjoy exploring it. And getting a bit beyond today's scope.
Yes, in those general terms, from Chipping Norton through to Middleton Stony, round to Steeple Aston, that's agriculturally termed stone brush.
Yeah, that's right.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Thanks both. That's really interesting. Yeah, that's very illuminating. As you know, as a scientist and engineer, I always like to know where data actually comes from.
I mean, in very simplified terms, geology determines landscape character, and that determines farming practices and civilization, and it also determines the kind of nature. And of course, the nature is a product of our past centuries of use. So it all works in together, and in a sense, the bedrock is literally the foundation on which everything else is built. So I'd encourage you to take an interest in what is your geology, spend some time mulling over maps like this, because you'll learn a lot, and you'll get a real feel for the not only the nature, the non-human creatures, and also the human creatures, because we all live off the land, and the land itself was created millions of years ago by many living things. This is, the Chipping Norton limestone. That's millions and millions, countless sea creatures that created the very ground on which we stand.
Ancient seafloor. Yes, very fascinating indeed.
Yes.
Thought.
Anyway, we're turning into pumpkins. It's gone 9 o'clock. Would anyone be interested in having a actual sort of training session to get you up and running and using this? Whether you're live today on the 27th of May or whether you're watching on the video, do drop an email to me, and I'll be happy to try and run some sessions to get people trained up and keep talking to you to build up your confidence in using this. It is a simple tool, but doing anything new like mapping does take a few goes, and it will build your confidence. So I'm there to work with you through the long term to have several sessions, and as you keep practicing it, you'll grow your confidence. And I really believe this can unlock, make things easier and make